And hello, everyone. Again, I'm not recording yet, but hello. I hope everybody's having a great day. That's my phone telling me that I'm live, which I don't understand why that's a thing. Why does Twitch need to send me a reminder on my phone that I am live?
You can't be subscribed to yourself, can you? Because
No.
that's the only time it would tell you.
I feel like that would be redundant.
Yes, it seems like it would be.
I'm gonna pay myself money, just so it takes a long time to come back to me
Well,
until I hit 100.
It'd be a couple dollars. That well, especially if you have Prime.
Yeah, it would be free then.
Yeah.
Free-ish.
Ish. Something like that. Free, not free, close enough. I'm gonna send a hello and make sure we're working.
Yeah, there we go. All right, we got chat. Chat's working. Everything is working right now. All right, so we can get the recording started. If I press the right button. Hello and welcome again to another installment of the Walk in Obedience Bible Study. I am Fuzzy. I am always joined with Dave.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here.
And I also want to thank everyone for being here also. Today we're going to continue on in Genesis. I believe we stopped around Genesis 18:29, so we're going to pick up there. But before we do that, I want to let everyone know that we do have that Patreon still going at patreon.com/walkinobedience, where that money is used for the furthering of God's word in this ministry. So if you feel like this ministry has helped you in any way and you want to give back monetarily, pray to God, see what he tells you to do and how you should go about giving back to this ministry, and then you can head over to that Patreon and see what you want to give. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's about it. So thank you for listening to that portion, and we can start again in Genesis. And Duke Steele, greetings, and thank you for stopping by. Always appreciate having you here.
Absolutely.
So, Genesis 18:29.
All right.
So right now, I guess we can kind of recap. Right now, we're in the middle of Abraham pleading for Sodom and asking God if there are 45 Christians, essentially.
Yeah.
Even though there aren't Christians here yet, but 45 people who follow God
All right, there
properly.
You go. Yes. Would
you spare the city? And he said yes. And then we can start again in 29, which says, once again he spoke to him, what if only 40 are found there? He said, for the sake of 40, I will not do it.
All right. And, kind of thinking about this week and last week, with these numbers, why 50? I don't know where Abraham got this idea of to even initially start out 50, right? And so we got 50, God says, sure. And Abraham's like, all right, so let's test it just a little bit further. And then he drops it by 5.
Yeah.
Okay, so we go 50 to 45, and he says, okay, well, if God's going to spare it for 45, maybe I'll try my luck at 40.
Yeah.
To try to get just a little bit more, all right? Because I want to save the entire city if we can, if there are righteous people there. And so now we're down to 40, another decrease of 5 again, just to see, if we can have this city spared. And again, he says, sure, if there's 40. If there's 40 people who are following God, we'll keep the city alive, and I won't destroy it.
Yes. All right. Verse 30. Then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. What if only 30 can be found there? He answered, I will not do it if I find 30 there.
All right. And again, you see that boldness.
Yeah, he's pushing even harder now because he went from 5 to 10.
Yeah, he's jumping that gap a little bit further there, and he precedes his petition or his prayer to God on behalf of these people. Says, "Hey, all right, don't be angry. Right? How about so you see this pleading that Abraham is doing with God, and You know, I don't think it's wrong at all for us to plead with God,
Yeah.
on behalf of ourselves, on behalf of other people, as we are praying, that we, as the writer of the Hebrews says, we boldly come before the throne of grace, petitioning God for the things that we desire, whether it's for ourselves or for other people. And that's exactly what Abraham is doing here. God is giving a little inch, and so Abraham is taking advantage of it and trying to make this bargain so that all these people aren't destroyed.
And I also think that when we go to the foot of the cross or the throne and plead with God for what our desires are, I think we also have to have that heart of God in us. Like Abraham has here. He's doing it because he really desires to see no good people perish.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's why God keeps saying, sure,
Mm-hmm.
if there's however many, I will make sure not to destroy any of the people.
Yeah.
Because he sees that Abraham has that heart of love for these people.
It's not out of greed.
Yes.
There's not something, a precious diamond or gold.
Yes.
Or, bring that up to modern standards, not this awesome car, that is within Sodom and Gomorrah that he doesn't want to see destroyed. He cares about these people.
Yeah.
And not wanting them to perish.
So moving on to verse 31. Abraham said, "Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found there?" He said, "For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it."
All right. Again, kind of like what we just looked at again. He takes an extra measure now of minusing 10 from 30 down to 20. And just like he did from 40 to 30, and he says, I've been so bold to this point, I'm gonna keep on bargaining for the lives of these people. So how about if there's only 20? If there's only 20 righteous people who will follow you, will you change your mind of destroying the city? And of course, his answer is absolutely. If 20 people are there, I promise not to destroy it.
Yeah. So then verse 32. Then he said, "May the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there?" He answered, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it."
All right. And this is where he stops. This is the end. Well, we got one more verse related to the end of the chapter, but
I'll read it.
No, okay, go ahead.
When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham returned home.
All right.
So that's the end of the bargaining.
He went from 50 down to 10. Why not 5? Why not 2?
Yes.
Why not 1?
That's what I was going to ask.
I don't know. But even at 10, there were not 10 righteous people found within Sodom and Gomorrah. These two metropolitan, if you will, cities of people who will follow God. And as we get into chapter 19, we see really Lot and his daughters.
Yes.
So I guess technically 4, but then one still has a little bit of doubt and looks back, Lot's wife. So we got 3.
Yeah.
Only 3 righteous. And then God did spare them.
Yes.
Just to preclude any kind of questions. He did spare the righteous that were within the city, but still destroyed the city because of all that was in it. It was nothing but righteousness or sin and wickedness other than these 4 righteous people.
Now, do you think he kept decreasing the number because he was trying to figure... He probably knew that there was no... It was just full of sin, the entire city, other than Lot and his family. So do you think...
Abraham or God?
Abraham. He kept decreasing because he was pretty much trying to get at, I know there's no one good in there, but if you're only going to save it if there's 50 people, then Lot and his family are dead.
Right.
So I wonder if that was back in his mind and that was actually what he was getting at. Abraham.
I think so. I mean, look how much Abraham has done for Lot
Yeah.
up to this point.
Yeah.
going to war on behalf of Lot to receive him back from being imprisoned. And so he has a deep care for him. He doesn't want to see him hurt. It's his nephew and his nephew's family that he's concerned about. And of course, God knew how many people were in this city that were righteous and unrighteous.
Yes.
He could see those things far ahead of time.
And honestly, I don't think God ever had the intent of destroying Lot and his family. Anyway.
No, whenever the angels come in the city, when we get into chapter 19, we see that they're told to get out.
Yeah.
Right? And really and not to really jump ahead, but the offer was given to the entirety of the family.
Yeah.
Get your friends, get your family, get everybody who is connected to you, who you love, whoever you have. Really, I'm going to jump all the way to verse 14 in chapter 19, which we probably won't get to today, but just to put it out there, whoever you have. So whoever who is among you, who is like you in some sort of holiness, get them out of the city because we're going to destroy it.
Yeah.
And yet, even all those people who you have, there's still only those 4.
Yeah.
And 3 make it out.
Okay, well, to start in chapter 19, verse 1, the 2 angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. I'll continue through verse 2.
Okay.
My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night, and then go on your way early in the morning. No, they answered, we will spend the night in the square.
All right. And of course, these 2 angels were the same angels that we saw at the beginning of chapter 18. That
with Abraham.
Yeah, because there was 3.
Yes.
In the, I don't want to say 3 men.
3 entities.
3 entities that came to Abraham in the form of men that Abraham and Sarah fed. But the 2 went off to go to Sodom and Gomorrah. The one, the Lord, that we just been talking about, that Abraham was bargaining with, stayed back behind. And so now we kind of pick up with the story, if you will, of these 2 that left. They now come to the city of Sodom. And lo and behold, in the city of Sodom, who do they greet right there by the gate?
Mr. Lot.
Mr. Lot, right? This is Abraham's nephew. And really kind of interesting is sitting at the gate was a position of leadership.
Okay.
This is where the decisions from the leaders of the city would meet.
Yeah.
And the decisions would be made at the entrance of the gate. And so it seems most people believe that because the way it's included in this, that Lot has, when he moved to this area, he assimilated so much that he became known, and he became one of the leaders of this city as well.
Yeah. All right. Verse 3. But he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, breaking bread without yeast, and they ate. So my question would be, why did they say no?
To not go to Lot's house?
Yeah. Was it kind of a test to see if he has that love?
It may be.
For strangers, like we're supposed to have.
And maybe they didn't want to take the time to, what was their job to be there?
Yeah.
Their job was there to call the fire and brimstone down from heaven to destroy this city. And, so not to be pulled away from the hustle and bustle of what's going on in the middle of the city. That is where, at the square, town square, is where you're going to find everybody.
Yeah.
To get maybe a litmus test, if you will, of what the city's all about. Of course, God already knows this city is wicked, but these angels are going to experience it firsthand. But because of Lot's insistence, all right, we'll go with you.
Yeah.
And why did Lot insist so much that these men don't stay in the city? We're not told yet.
No.
We come to find out.
I'm assuming he doesn't know they're angels yet. He will.
He will. Yeah, I don't.
But I'm assuming he just thinks they're men.
Yeah, it doesn't seem, other than the scriptures calling us angels, and of course, as we talked about that the same terminology can be used, angels as messengers. It's the same word, and so it depends on how it's translated. So whether they had a form of an angelic form to let Lot know, it doesn't seem like it, but they were just these new men who were there, and Lot felt a need, and of course we find out why later on, a need to protect them, to bring them into his home, and not to allow them to be there in the open square.
The Christian Repository in Real McFly, welcome. The Christian Repository says it was also common custom in those times for travelers to sleep in the town square wrapped in their cloaks.
Mm-hmm. Because it's not a
they didn't
Holiday
just stay,
Inn Express.
Yeah, I was going to say, they didn't just stay at the Best Western.
Right. Those kind of places don't exist. And so, especially if you are a stranger and don't have family within that city, you really leaned upon the hospitality. And I think that's why Peter gets into that discussion in the books that he writes there in the New Testament about Christians need to be hospitable because of that opportunity that exists, that you can show love to people who come into a city and don't have a place to stay.
All right. Moving on to verse 4. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city in Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house.
All right, and here comes the realization of why Lot wanted to protect these two men, these two angels that had come to Sodom, and not allow them to sleep in the open square because of this horde of people, this mob,
yes,
of all ages, coming,
young and old,
coming and surrounding the house. And anytime you have a group of people, a mob surrounding your house, they're not there to welcome you and bring you a pie and say, we're so
have
glad
a parade.
You're here. Right. There's things that are bad that are going to happen.
Oh, man. Okay, so the next verse, verse 5, they called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them."
Is that really what your translation says?
Yes.
That is just flat out there. I like that.
I was going to say, they weren't beating around the bush.
They weren't beating around the bush. And,
they clearly didn't know who these two people were.
And you see that because they call them men.
Yes.
Right? And so, these are just two strangers that come into the city and bring them out here. Bring them out here. In my translation, the New King says, "Bring them out so that we may know them carnally," which is exactly what your translation just kind of throws it out to. And that's what they wanted. These were different people that have come in the city, and it's in their minds playtime. It's try on a new person.
Yes.
Kind of idea.
They picked the wrong people.
Yeah. These were people who were aggressive, having the mentality of rape.
Yes.
But then also notice this is why the terminology that we use today, at least in the United States, of sodomy. This is where this comes from, because these are men who surround the house who are desiring to have relations
with other men.
With these other men. Yes.
What's up, Varkon?
So this aggressive homosexuality that they're wanting to do. They're wanting to rape these men. So
in verse 6, Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him and said, "No, my friends, don't do this wicked thing." I just read 6 and 7. You know what? Hey,
that's right.
Let's just do 8.
they go together?
I'm there.
Okay.
Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But do not do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. And that's the real reason why I wanted to finish.
Okay.
Because a lot of people have an issue with verse 8.
Okay. And it's through this you just see the wickedness, and you see the sin, and you see the reason why God desired to destroy these cities.
Yes.
Right? As soon as these strangers come into town, the first thought on the minds of these men, both young and old, are to rape these 2 guys that are there.
It's like Sodom was prison.
Yeah. Don't drop the soap. And even you see it affected Lot to the point that he's willing to give up his own daughters,
Yes.
who are virgins, to these men. Just don't hurt these strangers out of here. Here, take my daughters.
And I know a lot of people like to bring up this verse here and say, that's horrible. This is somebody in the Bible. Why would they give up their daughters to that mob? And I think there's a combination of 2 things. A, that's not, just because Lot said it doesn't mean it was right.
Exactly.
That's what a lot of people need to understand. People always say, oh, there's all these horrible things in the Bible. Well, yes, because there were horrible things when the Bible was being written.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Bible has sin in it because it's a book.
Exactly.
About what was going on then.
And then it shows us that sin is wrong.
Yes.
And it shows us the consequences of sin.
And also, I believe that Lot knew that those men wouldn't want his daughters anyway.
It doesn't seem right.
So not to say what Lot said was okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it was, but I also feel like Lot knew that he's just like at this point pleading.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he thinks they're just going to come in and do what they want anyway.
Yeah. And not in this instance, but when we get into another instance like this at the book of Judges, a very similar thing happens where a concubine is kicked out and she's raped. And it's not just they get their jollies off and go on. It is a continual beating, raping, and she's dead.
Yeah.
You know,
the Christian Repository
there's no sanctity of
just
life.
brought up Judges 19:24.
See, yes.
There you go.
And she's dead, and so they call on for vengeance to come, but that's a whole other story. But they weren't wanting the daughters, and I think that's why he precluded that. Oh, they've never been with a man.
Yeah.
Maybe makes him a little more enticing.
Yeah.
Right. But that's not why they're there.
No.
They're there for these.
They
two
are not
men
interested in women.
Nope. They want to.
And I think that is the perfect place to end it and go to Elijah.
You do this all the time.
Varkon, that was a perfect time for you to just come in, right when we're talking about that. So now this, if you're new here, we do 2 portions where we go through verse by verse in the Bible of a Bible study, and then we will head over to a different area, most likely, and talk about a person of the Bible. And today we will be talking about Elijah. Elijah, not the other one.
Yes. Very similar, Elijah and Elisha, both prophets, and Elisha was kind of Elijah's, I don't want to say underling, that's not the
mentee.
Yes, okay.
There we go.
There we go, I like that. Very good.
But he didn't always have him. Elijah didn't always have Elijah with him.
No, not always. And Elijah, he is a prophet. And what is a prophet? He's a lot of times I like to say he's a mouthpiece for God.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, because he spoke on God's behalf. The prophets were given what to speak, sometimes by God, vocally, sometimes through dreams and through visions, in different ways. they were given God's instructions to give to the people. And in giving these, being the mouthpiece of God, a lot of times there were prophecies that prophets would make, foretelling of the future. Sometimes they did, sometimes they didn't. Elijah was kind of one of those that didn't do a whole lot of prophetic speaking about the future, but he did a lot of hands-on things. Notably at the time, because we've been talking about the kings.
Yes.
And Elijah is kind of the notable prophet who deals around the time of Ahab.
Good old Ahab.
The king. Good old, yeah. I don't think you can put good in there anywhere when it comes to Ahab. But yeah, that's the time frame.
So my question when I was studying through the Bible about Elijah, do you see him before chapter 17 in 1 Kings? I don't think you do.
No.
I think that's his first kind of entrance into the story.
Mm-hmm.
However you want to call it.
Yeah. And that kind of gives you the background of where he's from and who's he's speaking to. And yeah, that's kind of his beginning
so
Elijah.
I can do a quick overview.
Go for it.
If needed. So Elijah is a Tishbite from, is it Tishbe? That's how I read it.
All right, I like it.
How do you say it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
All right. In Gilead. And he tells Ahab that there's going to be no rain, essentially.
Yeah.
So Elijah is told to go to an area where there's going to be a brook, and the ravens are going to feed him.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens.
No
one should be shocked because God told him it was going to happen.
Right. And what's the reason for this drought that lasts, really 3.5 years? It's because of the sin.
Yes.
That Ahab has been committing.
Yes.
He is not a good king at all. He is supposed to be king of Israel, but he's setting up places for idol worship. And, of course, we talked about that when we were talking about the kings.
Yes.
But that's the reason why Elijah is here.
Yeah.
To bring correction to Israel and to bring correction to Ahab, their king.
So then, and we're getting to one of my favorite verses, just because of how it's written and how I read it.
Okay.
Is one of my favorite verses. So, whenever the brook dried up from no rain, God tells him to go to, where is it? Where is it? Yeah, what did you say?
You're looking at verse 8, Zarephath?
Yeah, Zarephath. And there's going to be a woman there, and ask her for food and water. So he goes and he finds her, and he asks for water, and she goes, sure, I'll get you some water. And as she's walking away, he asks for bread. Verse 12, chapter 17, in my Bible specifically, NIV, I know everyone hates it, but that's what I have. It says, as surely as the Lord your God lives, she replied, I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. I am gathering a few sticks to take home and make a meal for myself and my son, that we may eat and die.
Okay, I know where you're going.
And to me, the way I read it, it's funny.
She must be the worst cook in history.
She just turns around and goes, we're going to eat and die, and then walks away.
Oh. Okay. I was like, where are you going with that, Fuzzy? I don't understand. She must be just the worst cook, right? As soon as they eat it, they're going to die.
And I feel like Elijah was just like, all right.
But what's the reason she says that?
Because she has no food.
Yeah, she has no more food. There's been this drought. There's been no rain, so the crops for 3.5 years really aren't getting any water. They're all dried up, so there's no food. There's famine. There's drought in the land, and so she's making their last meal.
And it also seems like, the way I'm reading it still, it's like as soon as they're done eating, dead,
just like that.
And obviously that doesn't happen. Elijah says, go back, make some bread for me and for you. You'll be good. Mm-hmm. Obviously that's what happens because God said that's what would happen through Elijah. And then her son gets sick and dies. And she tells Elijah, why would you bring this to me if you're a man of God and have my son die?
Mm-hmm.
So Elijah took the son, prayed, and God brought him back to life.
Yep. And, so that's 2, maybe 3. Kind of the first miracle with Elijah is that birds are feeding him. They're bringing him food, right, to eat. They're bringing him bread and meat in the morning. So that's kind of one of these miraculous things with Elijah. And then with this widow, right, she's out of bread or flour and she's out of oil.
And she's going to die.
And she's going to die. But Elijah says, you're not going to run out. And she doesn't.
Yeah.
So now her pots are continually filled with flour and oil, so she can make all the bread that she wants.
Yep.
And so kind of a miracle number 2. And then here's this third miracle, right? Her son is sick and is so serious that there's no breath left in him. He's dead. And he stretches himself out over
He probably
this
ate
child.
that bread.
He probably ate that bread and died. Yeah, but it's after these things.
I'm surprised she didn't say, told you.
There's a time break between chapters 15 and 16, or verses 15 and 16 and verse 17. But he's, and that just goes to show you that he is a man of God. He is, one of God's chosen prophets to do these things, to speak to Ahab, and to able to show God's glory in all these things.
Now, something that I found interesting when reading this about how she was told essentially by some random dude, don't worry, God's going to supply for you. Just make the bread for me and make it for yourself and you'll be fine. She didn't have to do it. Like, she could have said, you're crazy. Stay away from my family so we can die in peace.
Mm-hmm.
And not make him the bread. And I think that's a good parallel for our life today. How many times do we feel like we don't have enough, but God is telling us, whether it be money, food, whatever, but God is telling us to give to others. But then we sit there and think, if I give whatever, I'm not going to have it, then how am I going to take care of myself?
Mm-hmm.
And that brings back the in the Gospels, whenever Jesus says, you'll not have to worry about food, drink, or clothing. He will always supply those for you. Also about the birds. They don't worry about eating, so how much more would your Father give to you, loving you
Mm-hmm.
more than he loves the animals of the earth? And he supplies to them all the time. So I think this is a really good parallel for today.
Oh, absolutely. Because we got to have faith.
Yeah.
We've got to live our lives, faith, knowing that God cares for us so much that even though we're going to go through hard times in life, I mean, Elijah's, I think, a perfect example of that. Everything he went through wasn't all just sunshine and rainbows. He had hard days, but yet he had the faith to do what God wanted him to do. And here in a little bit, really in kind of chapter 19, we see his faith weakened a little bit in some problems that come from that.
So to continue on with Elijah, he, before he meets Obadiah was a prophet in Ahab's sphere of influence. And Jezebel, Ahab's wife, was trying to kill off all of the prophets, so he hid 100 of them, 50 in their own caves, 2 caves, 15 each.
Mm-hmm.
And Ahab calls Obadiah and says, hey, you go that way, I'll go this way. Let's see if we can find some grass so we can feed our animals. And Obadiah goes out. Elijah meets him and tells Obadiah, go tell Ahab that I'm here and I'm coming. Obadiah says, you better come or he's going to kill me. And Elijah tells Obadiah, I will, and he does. To continue on.
Mm-hmm.
So then, and I really like this story, Elijah on Mount Carmel.
Uh-huh.
Elijah tells Ahab to get 450 prophets of Baal, and we're going to have a competition,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. they come up on Mount Carmel, and Elijah says, "You guys, we're going to see who's the real God. You guys build your altar and do your thing. I'll build my altar and do my thing. You guys go first, and we'll see if he comes." And they built their altar and cut up the calf, and they threw it on there, and they're dancing around and doing cartwheels and jumping through the air and whatnot, doing a river dance off to the side. And thank you, Zenadine. He likes my summaries. And
It's pretty good.
it wasn't working, so Elijah started,
Taunting.
as we say in hockey, chirping. And he started saying, well, maybe he's asleep. Maybe he's busy. You got to shout louder. Maybe that's why he can't hear you. So they start cutting themselves like the crazy people they are.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing happens. And I think they did this literally all day.
Literally all day, yes.
And the river dancers were probably tired. And after they were like, yep, this isn't going to work, Elijah said, here, let me do this. Walked over to his altar with the calf cut up on it, dunked it in water 3 times. It was completely drenched. Prayed, gone in fire.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point in time, everybody was like, oh, your God is the real one and ours isn't. And he rounded up all the prophets and killed them.
Yep.
And then Jezebel said, I'm going to come at you and kill you
Yeah.
because you did that. So he ran away.
And Ahab, this whole instance was done, and I think for Elijah to show Israel that, look, no matter what Ahab's been doing and setting up all these idols to Baal for you to bow down and worship him, there is only one God.
Yeah.
Trying to bring glory to the God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the true and living God. And it seems that Ahab has some knowledge of God, some knowledge of
he'd have
the Mosaic law.
I feel like he would have to.
And he doesn't seem to be that scary and that harsh. But Jezebel,
Yes.
she's a different story.
Yeah.
She is a force to be reckoned with. She's a woman of death.
Yes.
You don't mess around with her, and so it seems with this event that happens on the mountain, and he's taken this huge step towards showing people the true and living God, and Jezebel doesn't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
She's trying to kill all these true prophets to wipe them out, and here is Elijah, one of these prophets who is talking about the only true God, and so his ransom for the death of Elijah has just skyrocketed through the roof.
Yes.
And he gets scared.
And this is when his faith starts to waver. When he runs away, then he essentially find a tree.
Yeah.
And lay under it and ask God to take his life.
Yeah. Just end it.
And then fell asleep.
And he's afraid of his life. Figures just might as well give up because Jezebel's going to kill me, and he starts running. Kind of in that same mindset, I guess, of Jonah.
Yeah.
When you think about Jonah, how he tried to flee from God.
Yes.
Elijah, he gets discouraged, and it seems like he gives up. He even gets so discouraged that he pretty much says that there's nobody left. Right? I just killed 450 prophets of Baal, and there's nobody that is following you, God. So just take me now, and let's get it over with.
And so while he's asleep, an angel touches him and says, get up and eat. And he looked around. There was some bread and some water, so he ate and drank and laid back down, fell asleep. And then this is what I like. It says an angel touched him the first time, and then it says the angel of the Lord came back a second time, so I don't know why they made that distinction, but they did. And
so was that one of these pictures of Christ,
Yes.
perhaps, there
And
to re-edify Elijah.
the second time he said again, the angel, to get up and eat. So he got up and ate, and it strengthened him. He traveled for 40 days and 40 nights.
Mm-hmm. And where did he go? He goes to a cave. You know, he still seems like he's
Gotta keep running.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. You know, he's still taking off.
And he went to that cave, and the Lord came to him and said, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah.
And he said, "You know, I've been serving you. They killed everybody. I'm the last one here. No one cares. Kill me."
Yeah. And you see, you know, he's focused on his history, on the past. You know, look, I was really zealous for you. And so he's focused on the past, right?
Yeah.
And then he's focused on everybody else's failures.
Yep.
All of Israel has forsaken you. So he's worried about everybody else's failures, and he's focused on the past. And so he just, you know, has this desire to just give up. You know, I'm the only one left, and so he's only thinking about himself. I'm the only
Selfish.
one left. Yeah, and sometimes we can, you know, as Christians, get in that same kind of mindset. You know, we think we're the only ones out there who are, you know, really worshiping God. Everybody else who's doing wrong, well, that's, you know, everybody else's failures, and we focus on all of those things. We focus on the past, we focus on failures, we focus on ourselves, and we forget of the job that God has us to do. And I think that's really what gets Elijah out of this funk.
Yeah.
Is God said, quit, get up, I got a job for you to do. And that's what Elijah does.
So when he's in the mountain, the Lord says, "Go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by." So the Lord's telling him that he's about to pass by.
Yes.
And then a wind comes. There was no Lord there. An earthquake. Nothing. Fire. Nothing. And then a gentle whisper.
Yeah.
And that's when Elijah heard it, and he pulled up his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. So he's still not even listening. He's told to get out there.
Told to get out there.
And he was like, "No, I'll cover myself up."
Mm-hmm.
And then the voice said to him, "What are you doing here?" And Elijah replies with the same reply as he said before. And he is told to go back where he came and to anoint Jehu, I don't know, son of Nimshi, king over Israel, and appoint Elisha, son of Shaphat, from Abel, I don't even know how to say that, to succeed you as prophet, and Jehu will put to death any who escape the sword of Hazael, which I forgot, he anointed Hazael king over Aram, and Elisha will put to death any who escape the sword of Jehu.
Mm-hmm.
So then he goes to find Elijah, and Elijah's, you know, doing the farmer thing.
Yep.
And essentially Elisha was like, "Let me go say bye to my parents," and Elijah said, "Sure, go ahead." And then Elisha followed him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's Elijah in 1 Kings.
Yes.
And then we see him again in 2 Kings.
And he's not going to stick around too much longer.
Nope. And we talked about Ahab falling through the lattice, hurting himself, sending the prophets to consult Beelzebub, the god of Ekron. But an angel of the Lord told Elijah to go meet the messengers and tell them, "Are there no other prophets in your land," or something along these lines? "Are there no other prophets of God in your land that you have to go to see Ekron and Beelzebub?" And essentially he's going to die because he did this.
Mm-hmm.
Ahab will die because he did this. So
Ahaziah.
Ahaziah. Sorry.
Yeah. Ahab died.
Ahab's already dead.
Yeah, he died in battle.
Ahaziah.
Yeah. Another one of these wicked kings. But
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they told him, Ahaziah said, "Well, go find that guy and bring him to me." So he sent a captain and 50 men, to which Elijah killed. Well, God killed him, but they said, "Hey, come down from that mountain." Elijah said, "No." And God wiped them out. So the second group came, and Elijah said, "No." God wiped them out, and the third group came, and that guy was actually humble and said, please don't kill these people. Can you please just come with us? And that's when God said, go ahead. And that was pretty much it. Elijah went to Ahaziah, and Ahaziah died.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way that God said it would.
Yeah. And then Elijah makes Elisha all right, you've been with me for a little while and been my understudy, if you will. And now it's time for Elijah to go home.
Yep. And we'll talk about Elisha next Wednesday.
Okay.
But long story short, Elisha asks for a double portion of Elijah's spirit.
Mm-hmm.
He gets it, and then he does a bunch of stuff, which we'll talk about next week.
Yes. And Elijah gets caught up in a whirlwind.
Yes.
Taken up into heaven.
So
really kind of the second guy not to taste death.
Yeah.
Enoch was kind of the first one.
Yep.
Elijah, the second.
All right, so that's where we're going to end it this week. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Twitch chat, for being here. Thank you, YouTube, for everyone who watches over YouTube. Please leave a comment if you have any comments. Twitch chat, we're going to do a Q&A here in a little bit, so get your questions ready. Also, anybody who wants to check out our YouTube, just type in Walk in Obedience Ministries in the search under YouTube, and it'll bring it up. It'll be like the first thing that comes up. Please subscribe to us over there and hit the little bell icon so you know every single time that we put stuff up. We are going to start putting things up onto YouTube that we are not going to live stream, so you can see them over on our YouTube whenever we get those up. Thank you, Dave.
Hey, thank you, Fuzzy.
Thank you, podcast people.
Thank you, everybody who's joined us on the live chat.
Yes.
And everybody who's watching, listening.
And as always, God bless, and I'll see you. Okay, Twitch.